Okay. All right, we have a few people here. I know it can be difficult to find the time sometime for these meetings, but we'll get started. So a lot of people have expressed through social media interest in having a dog park in the area of North Raleigh near Wakefield and Bedford and Durant Trails and Falls River and all the neighborhoods around that area. And so I thought I'd put this meeting together to be able to have staff be able to explain to everybody what would be involved in creating a dog park, possible ideas for locating one, and what the city's policies are. We actually do have policies regarding locations of dog parks. And then the other aspect of this meeting is to help bring people together that are interested in this to form sort of this would be a catalyst for forming a citizens committee that can reach out to the community and get other people involved, and also interact with city staff and the rest of council in order to garner support for the dog park. Obviously, these things don't just happen. We need to be able to get support in order to get funding and resources in order to make a park become a reality. And so I've talked with staff previously. I want to introduce Oscar Carmona, who is our Parks Director. And I believe they might have a little presentation or some information to provide. You should be able to, if all goes well, share your screen if you need to. And so Oscar, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cox, and good evening, everyone. My name is Oscar Carmona. Like Mr. Cox said, I'm the director of Raleigh Parks. And with me this evening, I have TJ McCourt, who is one of our planning supervisors and is also has been very involved with dog parks in the department in the past. He was one of our leads on a dog park study that the department did, I think back in 2018 or 2019. And so with that study, we were able to gain a lot of information about our dog park service needs. And so what TJ has is he's going to be able to provide you a short presentation this evening, just to kind of let you all know where our current dog park service areas are, and also share some results of that study that does show where our current service gaps do exist. We will share with you some potential options to consider. And then from there, we'll be able to take maybe any comments or questions that you all may have. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to TJ, who can share some information with you all on the results of the dog park study.
Great, thanks, Oscar. Y'all see that PowerPoint screen up now?
Yes.
Yes.
So like Oscar mentioned, I worked on our citywide dog park study. We got adopted just before the pandemic hit a couple of years ago now. During that process, we went all throughout the city to really take a kind of comprehensive look at dog parks. For a long time in our park system, dog parks were kind of a one-off project every time they came up. They kind of got dealt with in isolation, in a vacuum, and individual parks kind of one at a time. And we didn't really have a citywide strategy for how we wanted to address the whole topic. And so the dog park study, I think, put us on some really good footing relative to other cities around the country that are wrestling with the same issue. Dog parks are the #1 fastest growing park amenity that we see around the country. I snuck in a picture of my two dogs here. This is Otis and Daisy on the screen right now. We're at Oakwood Dog Park at least 2 or 3 times a week. We'll go to Millbrook occasionally. Those are our 2 main spots. Now that we got the dog park open up at Dick's Park, I'll take them down there on the weekends once in a while too, to run around on the grass. So I'm with you all. I'm a big fan of our dog parks. I recognize the value that they bring to the park system. And I think that's something that dog park study really helped us as a department wrap our heads around, is that these aren't just facilities for people to go run their dogs around, right? They really are elements of parks that build community and that bring people together. They give a lot of folks a chance to get outside and to socialize, get exercise with their pets. meet neighbors, meet new people. And for a lot of people, we found that dog parks are really, for many, many folks, the only time that they interact with our park system. That was I think one of the most eye-opening findings we had in the dog park study, was that for a lot of people that we talked to, they don't necessarily sign up for classes we have at community centers. They don't necessarily interact with our recreation programs, but they do use our dog parks. And so we are taking them more and more seriously these days over the last couple of years. So just wanted to share a little information on the next couple of slides with how we're thinking about dog parks these days and what it's going to look like in the future. So right now, just to kind of set the stage for everybody, we've got 7 dog parks in the city. Since we adopted that dog park study in 2019, we've built one at Buffalo Road and at Kiwanis Park. So those are the 2 newest dog parks added to the system. And in our park master plans right now, and that's usually how we do things, is we'll go in and do a full master plan for a park property where we think about everything that's going to be there in the future, and then usually build it out one phase at a time over a period of 5 or 10 years, maybe even a little bit longer. And so when we look at those long range master plans, we've got 4 more dog parks coming up. Now, you'll notice on this map that there isn't one currently planned for Northeast Raleigh, the kind of area of the city that we're talking about this evening. So we hear you loud and clear, and we recognize ourselves that there's a deficiency up here, and we want to provide kind of equal access to all of these different types of park opportunities, these different park experiences all around the city. Dog parks in Northeast Raleigh is definitely on our radar as a high priority. I want to mention, when we did the dog park study, one of the many things we asked about is, what should our level of service be for dog parks? And in the parks profession, that's a way of looking at how far should people have to travel to get to their nearest dog park. So for something like a playground, we'd really like to achieve a level of service where everybody lives within a 10-minute walk of a playground. So those are one of the core neighborhood experiences that we want to have really accessible, really close to everyone. Dog parks, we have a different level of service. We established it at somewhere between a 5-minute drive and a 10-minute drive. And so that when the dog park study was adopted, it was adopted with the idea that the city would strive to achieve a level of service where everybody throughout the entire city, no matter where you lived, was within at least a 10-minute drive of a dog park. We believe you shouldn't have to travel much farther than that. And so as we look at, again, those planned dog park service areas, we can see even with outside that 10-minute drive access area, Northeast Raleigh is still in need of some more planning to be done in the future.
You're talking right in here?
Where we are. So if we zoom in to Northeast Raleigh in this area, just to get everybody oriented at kind of where we've been looking recently, you all have quite an abundance of parks and parkland in the area. I'm sure many of you are fans of the Greenway trails that run through here. But again, if we're focusing on just that nearest dog park experience for you all, it's down in Millbrook Park. And just to zoom in again and see, we understand that 5-minute drive or even 10-minute drive service area, if you're living north of Durant Road, we know you have to travel farther than that to get to the nearest dog park. And so when we look at the other opportunities, these other properties we have in the area kind of north of Durant Road to see where we can fit a dog park in. First, we wanted to look at the undeveloped parks we have in the area. So the 2 I'll highlight here are the Leonard Track. This is up by Falls Dam. A lot of times it gets referred to as Falls Park these days. And Thornton Road, a little bit farther down the Neuse River, kind of east of Capitol Boulevard off Thornton Road. These are 2 undeveloped park properties that we have. They're both pretty large, over 50 acres, but they don't have master plans in place yet today. And so when we don't have a master plan in place for a park property, it's difficult for us to go in and introduce just a single use without really having had the chance to work with the whole community and think very holistically about the long-term future of that park property. Occasionally we can introduce some sort of like smaller or temporary use, but really we prefer to sit down, look at the entire property as a whole, and make sure we've thought through how everything is going to fit together, where we might want to have hiking trails or ball fields or a neighborhood center developed. And so we make sure that if we're going to place something like a dog park, it gets located in the right place. That master plan process is a little bit more of an intensive kind of collaborative design, community engagement process. It takes some time. And so if we're looking to do something quickly, we don't believe that using one of these undeveloped parks is necessarily going to be the best choice. There is greenway access available today at both these locations. So we've got the canoe launch up at the Leonard Tract. It's kind of the first trailhead along the Neuse River Trail. And then we've also got greenway parking down at Thornton Road. So while it is technically the sites are accessible, we also know that parking at both these areas is often over capacity. We get a lot of people parking on the shoulders of roads because they're already so popular, so crowded just for that greenway use. So we're a little bit hesitant to think about adding another use in the form of a dog park if it doesn't accompany some more robust development over the whole property. Some of the other locations that are in this area are our nature preserves. Some of the best parks in our system, I think, at Anna Louise Wilkerson, at Durant Nature Preserve, at Horseshoe Farm. Wonderful, wonderful places to visit, wonderful places to bring your pets as long as they stay on a leash. But because of the nature of our nature preserve program, that kind of intent and purpose of these sites, they're really just not compatible for off-leash dog areas. We do have kind of a nature preserve policy that talks about what uses are and aren't appropriate on these properties. And in the case of Annie Louise Wilkerson, there's some deed restrictions that prevent what we can do out there as well. So these are some other sites that are in the area, but again, if we're looking for the ideal location for a dog park, we'd push these toward the bottom of the list. Now, that said, there are two other locations that we think are really strong candidates actually for dog park development, and that's at Abbott's Creek Park and Honeycutt Park. The one I want to focus on today is Abbott's Creek Park. This is right off Durant Road there. Abbott's Creek Elementary is kind of co-located with the park property. Green Hills Park is a Wake County park property. Used to be the North Wake Landfill Park. That's where you can go drop off all your recyclables, everything like that. Great location, kind of center to this region, and we believe it's got a lot to offer in terms of potential dog park development. This shot here kind of shows a satellite view of that site. And this area highlighted here is the region that's really the city of Raleigh is responsible for. This is the city of Raleigh park property within here. And we think that somewhere within this area, we actually have some pretty good opportunities long-term for doing dog park development. And intriguingly to me, and we want to get some feedback from you all on this proposal, is some opportunities to do a short-term pop-up dog park where we'd use temporary fencing to enclose a space. We've done a lot of these pop-ups. We have one right next to the municipal building downtown Raleigh right now. We've done several around the city over the last couple of years. A lot of the fencing that's making up the Dix Park Dog Park today is that same style of temporary fencing that we'd be proposing to use here. We believe that doing a pop-up dog park at this location, potentially having it open by later this winter, late 2021, early 2022, would give us an opportunity to activate this space, bring a new use in, and kind of test out the idea of a dog park in this location, see how successful it is, and give us an opportunity to do some community engagement, get some more feedback on it as we go. And that will allow us the time to do kind of the design and cost estimate work to figure out what it would take to actually develop a permanent dog park here long-term. This map here would show, again, that 5-minute drive in the darker color and then the 10-minute drive service area in the lighter color. So it doesn't quite get us to that 100% coverage of everybody in the entire city. But given the pros and cons of some of the different locations, we believe that developing something at Abbott's Creek in the near term might be our best bet to address the issue today. Now, as we think further down the line in the long term, we're going to look at developing those master plans for those other undeveloped properties, for the Leonard Tract and for Thornton Road. And we do believe that, through that master plan process, we're going to be testing out all sorts of ideas for what might make the most sense for those particular locations. And of course, you all would be made aware of that process and welcome and invited to participate. And I'm sure that we would address dog parks at that time in the long-term build out of those sites. So developing something at Abbott's Creek here in the short term doesn't preclude the possibility of also getting a dog park at, say, the Leonard Tract or Thornton Road when we do those master plans in the future. So that's the information that we came prepared with today. Wanted to introduce that to you all to get the conversation started. But mostly today, I think we're here to listen to you. We want to hear your ideas, your thoughts, get some feedback on this proposal or any other ideas that you all have discussed. And we'd be happy to take any questions and join the conversation from there.
So if anyone wants to speak, if you have a camera, turn it on and you can raise your hand, or there's a button you can push to indicate that you would like to speak, or you can post a comment in the chat window, which I have open, and I can see any comments in there as well. I've talked to a few people who are very interested in this. I would like to introduce Carolyn Hudspeth, who I've spoken with. She lives in Bedford and is quite excited about the project. And she's very interested in helping to organize the neighbors into sort of a committee that could serve as a liaison between the community and the city, and just generally help move things forward. And I have some contact information for her as well, which I'll put up later. But I think right now, if anyone has any questions or comments, just let me know, and then we'll go from there. Okay, don't everybody rush.
I have a question.
Yes, go right ahead.
Originally, there was a plan for 3 baseball fields at Abbott's Creek. Is there still space for that to happen, TJ?
Yes. So one of the steps we would have to take if we were to develop something long-term, something permanent at Abbott's Creek, is to go through a master plan amendment process. And so that is a kind of a process we have in our community engagement policy with the Parks Department, with the city, where when we get these park master plans adopted, they are an adopted policy document that gets adopted by city council. They're conceptual in nature. So it's not necessarily that we're going to build precisely what each master plan says, but we do take it very seriously, and we're going to hold true to what that master plan calls for. Now, yeah, at Abbott's Creek, it does call for the development of some more ball fields, a skate park, a number of other things. So if we were to look at doing a permanent dog park out there, we would go through a master plan amendment process where we would reach back out to the community, say the master plan was adopted however long ago it was. Here are some things that have changed in the intervening years. Here are some new proposals that have come to light, namely the dog park, and kind of get all of the community engagement done that we would need to make sure that that would be the right choice holistically for the community before we would go ahead and make that move. Now, I don't know, I can't say right now where that dog park might be developed, whether it might displace a ball field or not. That's all something that we would figure out through the design process. So
Well, just for the record, I think Abbott's Creek is a great choice for the dog park, and I support that.
Great.
Just for the record.
I've got a question, TJ. Can you give us a little more information about what a pop-up dog park looks like?
Yes.
What kind of fencing, or is it for dog, small and large? Just kind of give us a little more information about that.
Yeah, so I'll try to pull up some images as the conversation goes on. But yeah, just to get some initial answer out there. So we purchased temporary fencing that is graded for animal containment, for safe animal containment. Usually these are installed with kind of sleeves that go into the ground. So kind of sleeves go in, they go 2 or 3 feet underground, and the fence post will go into those sleeves. So rather than like permanent fencing, you'd actually be installing fence posts in concrete. These are in kind of removable metal sleeves. But then the fencing material is attached post to post, and we can enclose an area as big as an acre, potentially even more, depending on how we use the tensioning system. So when we've done these around the city in the past, we've usually done them as fairly small enclosed areas. It's just a little bit easier to set up and take down that way. We originally started using them, and they would only be up for 48 hours, 72 hours, usually over the course of a weekend, or we'd bring them in to supplement some other special event that we were doing either downtown or at one of our other park sites, just to add a new activity where people can come bring their dogs. Dick's Park is the first time we tested out using the same fencing solution over a long-term period. And now that fencing has been up for months and months and months. We've gotten to test out how it holds up to the elements, to dogs running into the fencing as they're playing around, how our lawns maintenance crews can deal with, mowing and edging and weed whacking around the fencing, and have gotten a lot of those problems solved. And we believe it's a good long-term to medium-term solution. It's not something that we would want up for maybe more than 6 months or a year. But it is something that can be up for at least weeks or months at a time without the need for substantial repair or anything like that. So we've used these at a lot of locations. We've had no problems with dogs escaping or digging out under the fencing or any safety concerns or issues like that. So we've definitely tested it out on those smaller scales and believe that, yeah, at a location like this, I don't know if we would set it up. We would have to, again, put some more thought into it, put some more design work into it to see if we would set it up as separate small and large dog areas. In the past, when we've done the pop-ups, it has only been one area where we didn't differentiate between small and large dog areas as we would with a permanent dog park. That's just something that we'd have to, again, do a little bit more work to figure out what we could do there.
And we may be limited in the gates that we have available because that is a separate item from the actual fencing. So the gates may be problematic, so that may kind of limit us just to having one, both small and large dogs in one area. So that's something we can definitely look into.
Yeah, we know though that generally speaking, the desire is whenever possible to have separate small and large dog areas.
Any other questions? Does anyone have any concerns? Are people supportive of this idea of a pop-up dog park? It would certainly allow us to gauge the popularity and the amount of use that a dog park would get, and it would allow us to gauge whether or not we want to incorporate a dog park permanently at Abbott's Creek. And
Yes, Mr. Cox, my name is Scott Capilouthi. I'm on the board at Bedford, and our board is totally in favor of having a dog park. So on behalf of our community here, that's a solid yes from us for having a dog park. And it sounds like Abbott's Creek is a really good location for it. So thank you to you and all the folks that are working on this to make this happen.
okay.
I would say as a Bedford family member too, I walk a really big dog who meets other big dogs in the neighborhood that she would love to play with. And that causes a lot of confusion. So having a dog park would be amazing. And I know that a lot of the people that I talk to when I'm walking her, I have not seen on the meeting. So I know that there are a lot more people who would be in support of a temporary dog park and a permanent dog park.
Mm-hmm.
I actually go up to Wake Forest to Flatterly to take my dog to the dog park, just because it's actually a little bit closer, I think, than Millbrook for me. But having something even closer would be super nice.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm totally in support of this as well. I moved here a little over a year ago, and one of the first questions I asked was, why can't we have a dog park? So I'm very excited about the possibility. Do you have any idea of how large this temporary could possibly be?
Not right now. Honestly, we'd have to take a closer look at the site, get together with, one of the advantages of doing this at Abbott's Creek is it's a staffed location, somewhere where we can make sure we have people who have eyes on the site kind of every day, keeping an eye on any issues that might pop up. And so one of the things we'd have to do is work with the center staff to understand how they're currently using the site, where we have programs planned, work with our parks maintenance staff to understand their kind of mowing schedules and how they're maintaining the vegetation, where we might be able to clear an area if we need to do any kind of minor clearing to get things all set up. So this is kind of the initial conversation. And I think what we take away, everything that we've heard from you all tonight, go back, take a closer look and figure out exactly where on site makes the most sense. And from there, that would kind of dictate how large of an area we could build in. I think, yeah, our goal would be though, as big of an area as feasible, understanding that, we would have to procure new equipment, additional fencing to enclose the area, all of that sort of thing. But yeah, we would look to make it as large as we could, as large as we feasibly could.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone?
Hi,
Uh,
David. This is Sean Collins.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm driving. I can't turn my camera on. I was
That's
just
okay.
wondering, how much would the temporary fencing cost? Like, or less importantly than a number, would that hold up the process getting funding for such a thing? And secondly, how quickly could the pop-up dog parks start appearing in our neighborhood?
So no, I think like the funding level for the temporary fencing is something that's accessible within our kind of general operating budget that's available now. As far as how quickly, our goal would be to get it done at some point this winter. I wouldn't promise by the end of the year, but I'd say certainly by early next year. I think we could have a temporary solution figured out. And I think that that's a great alternative because the cost of developing a permanent dog park, that's when you're talking about kind of an order of magnitude higher. We're at that point thinking about bringing in water connections, potentially lighting and shade structures, permanent site furniture, benches, dealing with, kind of all the permitting that goes along with it, stormwater issues, all the things that come up with any kind of, big construction project we would deal with a permanent dog park. But the temporary solution, we'd be able to avoid all of that. I do want to say, along with the temporary solution, it would be with the understanding that a lot of those amenities that we would want to provide at our permanent dog park locations, we wouldn't necessarily be able to provide at the temporary location. Again, it'll depend on where exactly we can make it work on site, but it might mean that we won't, for example, have a permanent shade structure the way we do at Millbrook Dog Park, and we'd have to look at where we have access to water and some of those sorts of things as well.
I think this raises a good point, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this meeting, was to help catalyze the community into forming a group that would be advocates for a permanent dog park. As most of you probably know, there will be in November of 22 a bond on the ballot for parks, and a lot of capital improvements such as this are paid through a bond. And if we want to get this into the bond, then we really need to have a group that's willing to advocate for that, meet with other members of council and the mayor, and advocate for getting support for this in the bond process. And so we really can't wait until the pop-up park is popped up and in use, and certainly we can use the pop-up park to gauge the interest long-term. I think there is a lot of interest in it. However, going forward, if we want a permanent dog park, whether it's at Abbott's Creek or one of the other locations, the best thing to do would be to have an active group that is lobbying and advocating to get the funding necessary in order to build it. And so that part of the reason for having this meeting is to bring people together so everyone can meet each other, and you can serve as representatives into your respective communities and neighborhoods and help get that support. I have spoken at length with Carolyn Hudspeth. What I'm going to do is in the chat window, I've just posted both her email address as well as my email address. And so at this point, in order to help get the group organized, I would ask that you email both of us your contact information and your interest in the park. And then I will certainly make sure that this information gets passed along to Carolyn. Indicate your interest in working on this as a project. And then, this will be grassroots. We'll go from here and see how it goes. And so I hope that's agreeable to everybody. And I'm kind of excited about this. And I know back in New York, where I came from, we had lots of parks where we could take and run our dogs. And it'll be nice to get a facility like this in our area. Okay, everybody. Well, a short, but I think very productive meeting. And again, I thank Oscar and TJ for coming, and Jonathan as well, who's also from the Raleigh, from the manager's office, for joining and providing this information. And it looks like we have a path forward. So thank you.
We definitely do. Thank you for having us, and we will make sure we communicate timelines with Mr. Cox. We can go ahead and share with everybody on a timeline for the pop-up out at Abbott's Creek.
And for those who joined late, realize I did record this meeting, and so when I get an opportunity, I will get the video posted, and we can distribute it so people can see the results of the meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, David, for putting this together.
You're
Yeah.
very welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night,
so much.
everybody.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you, TJ.
Thanks.